Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's show, we're going to talk about a milestone, we're going to talk about a correction, and I'm going to weep a little bit on camera because of the critters. So first up on the show, I want to say a sincere thank you to everybody who's joined, subscribed to the YouTube channel. I appreciate all the feedback, appreciate all the comments, appreciate all the questions, and I really appreciate Derek. I'm going to put a link at the bottom here to Derek's YouTube channel. So Derek is a high school student who became my 400th subscriber just a while back, and so I want to thank Derek for becoming the big 400. 400. I wanted to share something with Derek though, or about Derek. I want to say congratulations to Derek because it was, I think it was last year, 2 years ago now, and even though it's been 2 years, what an accomplishment. So Derek pitched a no-hitter in the Little League World Series. It was the 15U Babe Ruth World Series in the summer of 2018, before the world went crazy with COVID. He was a freshman at the time. He'll be graduating here in 2021. He was a sophomore rather. So he's graduating this coming year. I hope his senior year has gone okay with the COVID and all that. So congratulations to Derek. Thank you so much for becoming my 400th subscriber, and congratulations on a no-hitter during the Little League World Series. That is phenomenal. Thought I'd pass along a little cheer during such a crazy time, and again a bit of gratitude for Derek becoming number 400. Right there, the big 400. That's my homage to you. I should have had a bat and ball or something, you know, more relevant. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody else for the comments, the questions, and it's just great to have so many people be a part of what I love to do, and I hope I can continue to share it for a long time because I just love doing this, love talking about the bonsai, and keep those questions, comments, and likes. Yeah, the more likes, the better. All right, thanks, Derek. I do appreciate it. I mentioned in the teaser open that we're going to be weeping on camera today. I don't know if I can do that on cue. I did some acting back in the day, but you know, I could never bring up tears. So we're probably not going to weep, but we are going to moan and groan just a little bit. I can do a little bit of that. I can whine. I can do a little bit of whining. I don't like to whine. And you know what? It's all my fault, so I can't blame anybody. And well, we'll get to that a little bit later. But first of all, I want to make a correction. This guy back here that we did an update on a couple of episodes back, we did an update on what I've been calling the Christmas cactus. But here's one more bud coming out. It's been a month or two since the last bud. Incidentally, I have this Christmas cactus as well. And it's got a little tiny bud as well. So that's going to go back out there. Hopefully it'll open up. This one is probably going to be opened up in the next couple of days. It'll for sure be open by Christmas, but it'll fall off by Christmas. But here's the funny thing. I had one of you viewers tell me that it is not a Christmas cactus. This person who sent a message to me said that it was a Thanksgiving cactus. Now, prior to this email, I had absolutely no idea in the world that there was any such thing as a Thanksgiving cactus. So I went online and I looked at a couple of Thanksgiving cactuses, and lo and behold, it looked a lot like this one, and a lot of them with this red bud, very, very similar. And there is something called a Christmas cactus, and apparently there's something called a Thanksgiving cactus. And so my correction, if I need to be corrected, is that this is a Thanksgiving cactus. I only had one bloom about a month and a half ago. Here's bloom number 2. A couple other ones fell off. So hopefully this one opens, and we'll have a between Thanksgiving and Christmas cactus going. If I've confused anybody, now here's the interesting thing about this Christmas/Thanksgiving cactus. To date, with now 400 viewers, as I mentioned before with Derek, plus 400 subscribers, that episode, the Christmas cactus, is approaching 10,000 views. By far the most I've ever had anybody watch my stuff. Christmas cactus bonsai. One of the oddest trees I have, really not a classic bonsai in any stretch of the imagination. But if you haven't seen my past shows on this, what I've mentioned before, and the reason why this one's up here now as a bonsai, is because this was a cutting from my wife's, what I thought was a Christmas cactus, about 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago. And I do the transitions from beginning to now in my episode number 23, by the way. Episode 23 will show you that, the transition from then to now, or close to now. And so all her Christmas cactuses, or Thanksgiving cactus, wasn't blooming during Thanksgiving or Christmas until I put them in a bonsai pot. When I put them in the bonsai pot, I started getting all these blooms, but then hers still wasn't blooming. So now I've put the rest of hers in bonsai pots, and now that one's got its first bloom in about 6 years. And it's looking a little bit more like a tree now. It's got a little separation there, a little ramification into a Y. And yeah, I'm going to have another odd-looking bonsai. And yeah, 10,000 people checked that out. So I hope I didn't misguide 10,000 people. So I felt it was really important for me to go ahead and say, hey, I don't know the difference. I still don't know the difference. I'll have to do some more research. But there is, in fact, something called the Thanksgiving cactus. Cool. So there it is, my Thanksgiving/Christmas cactus. And that's my correction for today. Whew, yeah. So as promised, a little boo-hooing a little bit later. That's going to be later. It's going to be kind of one of my updates, but not an update in a good way. It's going to be a boo-hoo update that's gone a little south. And I'm really kind of sad about it. But we'll boo-hoo a little bit later. So today's show is really going to be a little bit of a trim, a prune. Well, actually, it's going to be just chops. I have a couple of plants that we're going to take care of today. I have some jades. So I worked on recently my Portulacaria afras, the ports, the PAs, the elephant plant. So this is just your common jade. This is a common jade and not the little jade, not the ones we worked on before. Much bigger leaves, a little bit different looking bark, not as dark of a colored bark. But I've had this thing now growing for a couple of years and it's shooting up super tall here. I got this massive growth here since I brought it inside the house. This is bigger, this is bigger. But we're gonna just cut this thing all back and so it can have its nice, casual, really even tempered atmosphere all winter long and start to ramify slow but sure. And then by next spring when I get it outside, I'll have a little bit of leaves here and there and then it'll just go boom in the summertime. Until it can get something like this again, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna trim this guy down, so let's set up shop and get to some working. Okay. So I have a couple of jade plants here. We're gonna do the big one second, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this one down over here. And we'll start with this little one. So one of the cuttings from that guy, the bigger guy, became this guy. And it's got kind of the twin trunk look. And when I had it outside, this past summer, I don't know if something was leaning on it, but this branch over here started to lean this way. And I've never wired a port yet. I've not wired a jade yet. I've always been super afraid that the wire's gonna really cut into these the trunks. But this started to go down like this. So one of the interesting things about that it did that is that as it bent down like this, I thought, oh, that could be kind of a, you know, obviously an informal upright. Could even work on getting this thing to curve down here and maybe even make it a cascade, a semi-cascade, if I kept bending it. But look at the growth there right between my two hands now. Right here, right here, and right here, and right here. All of that started growing up towards the sun. So as soon as this bent over, all of a sudden more back budding occurred. I've noticed with the jades, in my experience, when you're growing them like this, all this is of course where most of the auxin is, that hormone, the growth hormone that wants to reach up to the sun, and it helps it to reach up and grow big. So when you cut this off, well, that's why it all ramifies down here and starts to spread out. But you'll notice all the gaps in here, and you know, these are super duper great plants because they have the every other leaf pattern, right? So these leaves are going this way, and the next leaf up here is going that way. And then it'll go this way, and then that way. So super cool, so you can get that every other and make them look really good. But when this was bent over, look, then all these plants started to grow. Let's show you this side to see a little bit better. There you go. So I ended up getting two growth from right here. It was bent like this. And for whatever reason, it was stuck like this. And I don't remember if it was up against another tree. And so I had this going like, oh, look at that. I'm bending this, I'm not breaking it. And with a little wire, and then if it got woody kind of on the bottom here, like my other one is slowly but surely getting a little bit more woody looking, perhaps it would stay that way. Of course, I let go, moved it, took it away from whatever was creating that bend, and then it slowly made its way back up. And now in the plant room, it pretty much wants to grow straight up. So it was a nice little accidental experiment. Pretty cool. So I'm just going to cut these down. I'm gonna harsh prune these. Only because I've got some funky little growth on here. They're getting longer up here. I just want to thicken up this trunk, and I know I can just let it go completely, these two, and they'd get them thicker. But I've got some neat ramification down lower here for some primary branches. So I'm going to cut down to a little bit closer to those. And like I said, it'll sit in my plant room here for the next 6 months and just get ready for the big summer push. I'm not going to transplant it into a bonsai pot. It's still going to be in this nursery pot here. And so we're just going to cut it up. So, and I'll probably propagate and let these callus up a little bit and put them in some more soil and have some more trees. Give them away to other MBS members. Who knows? So I'm going to go ahead and give this a chop. Give this a cut right here. I have no idea what is going to be the front of this tree. Doesn't look so exciting from that angle. This angle has a little bit more life to it. Got those branches down here. Here's this one down here, but that goes inside towards the other tree. So that's kind of odd. But then now there's this branch right here that grew. So maybe if these are separated, this growth over here would take off, and this one right here coming right at us, we'd probably take off. But I know for sure that I'm going to cut it at least down to here. So if I cut at the bottom of the ring, I more than likely will get a couple of new growths right there. And there we have some succulents. Now, these succulent cuttings can grow really, really well. If you just lay these on dry soil, and then in my plant room, if I just lay these around in my plant room pots, and I mist the plants a couple times a day like I typically do, these sitting right there on the soil, misting them, will start to grow roots. And the roots will go down to the ground, and this will become a tree from one leaf. So if you want to propagate some of your jades, and you got some really good healthy leaves, just let them go, completely let them go, let them dry out by putting them right in some soil, and don't gush them with water, but just mist them once a day, once every other day, a couple times a week. I've been misting a couple times a day, and some dropped jade plants from the one that we're going to work on next started growing roots. As a matter of fact, I think I can find that one and show you. I think I left it in there. Yeah, here we go. So there is a dropped jade leaf in here. And it just dropped in there. And then I've been watering it like I normally do a couple times a week. And then I mist it twice a day. And we'll have to get a super close-up of this somehow. But there's root growth right there and there and there. These are all squiggly roots right there, growing, ready to grow a new tree. So if I just leave that in some soil, I could get another little tree from that. So as I said, these big, bold, fluffy leaves will probably grow into another tree if I so desired to do that. So we typically take off, we don't want too much leaves because we don't want to lose, I don't know if it's as important in a jade as it is in other species, because we don't want to lose that transpiration. So we don't want the leaves to totally take up too much of the water and make the roots work hard because there are no roots left. So we cut off most of the leaves going up, and you can even cut leaves in half. I don't do that with the jades, but you could do that with other trees if you're replanting an elm or cotoneaster, those kind maples. If you cut the leaves and just leave little stubs, just so it's photosynthesizing a little bit, we can put that just laying it down right there. Or this one I can just stuff into some dry soil, and I wouldn't even water it for a couple of weeks. It's going to dry up and callus, and then it'll start to root. So we won't even water for a couple of weeks. So there's the first cut. Now because this one does lean, this is becoming the new leader. So if I just go in there and cut that right there. I have another cutting if I want. I have a jumbo leaf. I have a jumbo leaf. I have a jumbo leaf. I have a couple of little ones here that probably don't matter so much. There we go. This could be another cutting. Got this big leaf, these little leaves here. Actually, I could just cut this big one off. A couple down here, a couple here. We could put that in as well. So right here in front of me, I have the potential to have another half a dozen to a dozen propagated jade plants. So here we have my little tiny tree. Now these trees, these jades, don't have the small leaves like the PAs, the Portulacaria afras. So we're going to want these leaves to be super tiny. So down the road, when this plant gets bigger and I have a much bigger base and I have a bigger foliage here, I'll go ahead and defoliate the branches, and then that new growth will pop out small, and you take a couple of really good pictures and show it off a little bit and before they get all big, and you can have a really cool looking tree for a short little time. So we usually cut and prune back to get those smaller leaves. This is all I really would have to do to the tree right now, but I'm going to thin it out inside here because, again, if this is a dual trunk, I got all this growth in the inside where it hides this trunk pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this inside one. So now you can see if that is the front. I got this branch growing out this way. So I'm going to cut off this inside branch here. I'm going to cut off this guy right there. And I'm just going to cut him off because we got this branch growing over here, and I'm actually going to cut this down to this level right here. I got this branch going right here. We'll see if this splits into more. And I'll actually just cut this one off right now anyway. So I'm left with a stump and a couple of leaves there. And this could someday become the primary branch. If not, we could always cut it down even further and it would just split and divide because these things grow as the PAs pretty profusely. So when I repot this next time, I might have to twist it in the pot more this way. If I can bring these up like this, this would probably still come off. For sure the inside branch, for sure this branch right here. Now I just have some movement going up. I'll leave that there for now. But I'm going to cut this one right in front of us off. That'll heal up real nice. Might even try to grow a couple branches there. I'll get this one going right at us off. I'll get this one over here off. And there we go. That's all I'm going to do. So I got all those little cuttings, and I've got that. I've got some cuttings that fell right into this pot as well. There's the PA, or the Jade. This could be your front someday, or this will be a front, a twin trunk. That's all we're going to do for today. This, I believe, used to be a forest. I think there was a tree up here that didn't make it, died away. So I think we had a 3 forest, but this is a twin trunk, so it ended up being 4 trees, and usually we like to have odd numbers. But until they're big and you can split them off, and now it looks like a group of 3 because of the twin trunk, which I don't recall. I might have made this twin trunk. I get confused with my Jade if I twin trunked this one or if I did the PA that I did a show on just recently. But either way, I have all these great big trees. Now, one of the things I want to do for you is I want to get a super close-up of this tree because I've been telling you I've been misting my trees a lot lately. And of course, you can mist these for days and then water once and you're going to be fine with this kind of succulent style plant. But look at all the root growth right here. Look at all the root growth right there. Look at this big bunch right here, if you can see that one through the leaves. And there's one right there. There's some way up here, and here's some down here. If I turn this plant around, I got some right there. So we've got all this root stuff growing here. Just aerial roots. It loves the moisture. It super loves the moisture, and so it's getting those roots going right down towards the earth. This, I'm not sure what to do with and how far to go. And I'll start with this tree right over here. So this goes into a really nice Y here, and then it goes into a Y here and a Y here. So super nice. So if I just cut right above the Y, right above the Y, right above the Y, right above the Y, this Y here can become to 2 more Ys, and hopefully they grow the right direction. So we could go for that. The other thing I could do is, if I don't like the gap here with this Y, is this too tall without leaves, or I want more leaves down lower, I could cut right here, halfway up this Y, and hope I get some splitting down here, so I can get that ramification when it's up here super tight, but down here will be a little bit longer. So one of my thoughts was to cut right down here, and I've already got aerial roots growing right here. So if I cut right there, I've got another twin trunk right there. I can cut it right here, put it in the ground, there's some roots, and I would have a twin trunk growing right out of the ground right away. I'll get rid of some of the leaves. And then this one, I could cut the same level, and then I just have 2 stumps, and we'll just let it grow. Or I could leave a split right there and then go from there. So what to do with that one? If I don't cut below the root line. I would cut right up here again, so I'd have that Y, or yeah, this Y here that could split into two Ys, which again, from 1 to 2, 2 to 4 to 4 to 8. It's not angled the best way for the front of this tree. If this is the front of the forest, I don't know why this one is off to the right in the front, but we would want to twist this more anyway. If this used to be the front, we got a lot of stuff up in front of us here, well then it's okay with the way it is, but then I maybe want to twist it this way. But it's kind of hidden with this great big branch over here. But when I cut that branch off, it won't be hidden anymore. In the future planning, maybe I can separate them and make that happen too. So maybe I don't want to cut this one until I cut this guy right here. Make this main tree the way I want it and then do that. And the reason why I say that, I just watched a really great episode with Nigel Saunders. I'll put a link on there too to his hibiscus video he just made. In the hibiscus tree that he was pruning, he had a branch that was coming out here and he thought maybe I should cut that off. And he's been stewing over it. Should I cut it off? Should I not cut it off? He cut the rest of his big tree off, trimmed this one, and then he said, you know, I'm going to keep it a little bit longer, basically. And at first I was like, chop it off, you're going to chop it off, right? And I almost fast forwarded, but I watched more slowly, learned more great stuff from Nigel, and he didn't cut it off. I'm sorry, I just ruined it for you. But you got to watch it, because you got to see it in the beginning, and then you got to see it at the end and go, oh, well, yeah, I kind of like it now. Now that the top was trimmed down, it didn't seem to be as much of an eyesore like he was saying in the beginning of the video. So you got to watch definitely portions of that video to see the hibiscus. And you got a great flower that he had to cut off. My point being is that I can cut this big one down to size and then see what to do with the little one. So why don't I do that? I'm going to take a little guidance from Nigel there, and I'm going to work on this main tree. And do I like that as the front of the main tree? This one's the more predominant, sticks out a little bit in front of us. This one kind of tucks away to the side, but it's twisted, so we can't see the growth of it very well, unfortunately. If it's not connected, I could separate it and then twist it so we can actually see it more, but I think it's growing maybe as a twin trunk, and it's probably too late to separate them. But I can always cut this thing right down here. I can cut it right here and we'll get a split and division right there, and maybe it'll divide the way I want it to divide. We just don't know. What's nice about the division up here is it divides into two right here. I'm going to get rid of this one little piece of foliage right there for you. So look right here. It divides into two, 1, 2, and this one divides right away into 1, 2. It's a really great ramification right here. Do I save that? Well, I would only really save that if I thought this trunk was where I wanted the trunk to be, and the trunk is still not nearly as big, and I don't want this to be a tree this big anytime soon. I don't expect it to be that big anytime soon. I just want to have a really cool looking jade that might be, you know, maybe is about this big someday, but I got to thicken up this first. So with all of this growth up here and all of these branches, all the energy is being sucked away from down here now, a little bit, as far as I understand the concept here. And so I'm going to get rid of some of this foliage up here so I can get more growth down here, which will thicken up the trunk down here and get even more energy towards the trunk. So that one I can cut back, and I could cut it back pretty harshly. This one up here has got this branch coming right at the viewer all of a sudden. If you move this tree here and look at this tree from this angle, look at how nice that tree subdivides. It's kind of nice. Doesn't look as great from the front, does it, with this branch right in our way? Or I'm sorry, this way. Doesn't look as nice that way, but when you tilt it a little bit, or you look at it from this way, look at how nice that tree looks. Again, we can move this one out of the way. We could do something with this. I like this subdivision right here. Whether it's the back of the tree or the front, I like it. So I'm not going to cut below it, but I am going to cut everything above it off. And right now it's sticking in our face, but again, this might not even be the front. Because watch, if this becomes the back someday, this branch right here I just cut off right here, if I get a branch growing right in here to fill in and it divides into two here, I fill in this empty space a little bit, maybe, we'll see. So if I'm going to do that, I got this really long one that doesn't go to 2 to way up there. So I'm going to cut this one right here. And I'll have you notice all the roots there. Right up here is what I was showing you before. We got some roots at the Y, roots up here, and roots down here. I can stick this into soil right now, and I'll show you what I did. So I just made it a little bit thinner. I'll probably cut some more branches off so it can, these roots aren't overwhelmed. But there's roots on there already. I don't have to root this, it's already rooted. So that'll become a nice cutting. That was a big cut. And look, I still have roots right here and here. I'll probably cut these off right now. I don't want the roots. I don't need them right now. I'm not going to cut it any lower than that. If I'm going to cut this one this low, I don't know which one of these is going to be the apex of this tree. Which side? They kind of cross each other right here, right? We don't want to cross. So I might have to do some wiring someday, or put a cork in here and let this stiffen up like this, and who knows. But for right now, we're going to just kind of cut it and make it shorter. I'm going to go ahead and keep this Y right here. Right there. More potential. And then if you notice, my last cut for this branch right here is, you'll notice on this branch right here, it's kind of hidden by this front branch, because here's a branch that's subdividing, and there's a branch right here that's subdivided. See, here's one leaf, one piece of foliage, and this one has a branch structure growing right now. So if I cut right here, cut that off, this becomes the new leader. I cut this one off here. I trim this up to make it a little bit tighter. I need a little bit pointier scissors for that. That'd be better. So there we have the trees cut down. I'm only leaving that right there. This one to grow off this way in case I like this better. And right now maybe that one will grow better, and that'll be the new leader of this tree, and we'll kind of see what happens. And there's also a little tiny bud right there. Can you see that bud right there? Super, super tiny. It's right there by the tip there. So there's that side of the tree. And if I do the same theory here and cut this off, cut the inside one off, I just cut this one off and the inside one off. And if I go back to here, and if I just go ahead and cut the whole thing off there, I've got one leaf up there. Got that tree that subdivides right here. Maybe it'll divide now this way and that way. We'll see. This one's already growing this way, and you'll see what happens up here. And then I've got the back, which does that division into three. So let's keep those three a little bit higher on this one. I'm just going to cut that leaf entirely off. We'll go a little bit higher here. Cut this inside leaf off. I'm going to cut this one growing straight up off. And if I cut this leaf off, and that leaf off, maybe I don't even have to cut any more. And I have these branches growing. Got the one out here, the one here, the one here. And this is going to grow up here. This is going to go here for now. There's my leaf structure. There's my first tree, the big tree. Look at how much I cut off. I cut out over 90% of this tree. 80+% of this tree. In my plant room, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It has been fine every time I've cut it this harsh in the past. It's going to sit in these really stable conditions for the next 5 to 6 months and just love life in here. I can put it in a humid spot, a not so humid spot. I range from 50 to 80% humidity if I go back to the new green room. So now these two trees are looking very, very similar in size. So now we can attack that second one, which I was going to do first. And it is leaning a little bit. And again, when we repot this, we can move this around. This could be a tree that's off to the side. We put one over here, and this is the main up front tree. But for right now, we're going to look at it as it is on its own. And we'll leave one leaf on this one for now. I'll leave 2 leaves on that one. I'll cut that top off. All right. So this is the main tree, so I still want this one shorter. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off right there. If I cut the one facing you off, cut this one over here, I'll I'll see what this one does in the back. This one right here has 2 buds right here that you can maybe, there you go right there. And then this in the back, this one in the back doesn't look as healthy. I'm just going to cut that off. So that already has some subdivision right now. We'll see if that grows. And then this one's too big in front, so I'm just going to cut it off right there. There we have it. I am done. I have massacred the jade. Hopefully in a good way. Hopefully this is going to now put out some new buds and subdivide. I got the 2 growing right there. Got a couple of buds. Where's that other bud? There's a bud right back here. So got these leaves here as the apex. This might be still a little bit tall. Yeah, what if I cut this off here and cut this one off right there? So this one's a little bit taller than this, a little bit taller than that one, and this one's a little bit smaller than this guy. That's all we're going to do. Hopefully this will subdivide this way for some texture in the back. And there we have, which will be our future mini jade forest. It is time for the boo-hoo section of the show. Okay, so I teased this earlier, and I've had a couple of issues with my willows. Now, willows are very, very hard bonsais to grow, from my experience and what I keep hearing from MBS members. Willows and birch trees have a tendency to just drop leaves randomly, or drop branches randomly. And so you might be growing this tree for a couple of years and you got some good shapes, and all of a sudden a branch might just die off. And dieback is common, and you don't know why and where it's going to be. So they're really hard to predict, and they can just, a lot of work go down the drain. But I love the weeping willow look. I love the trees that are on the peninsulas or the edges of lakes, on a river up in my dad's cabin. Hangs over the water a little bit and just weeps down toward, I love that look. It always is peace and serenity to me. I just love that. I want to recreate that. So in past shows, I've shown some of my weeping willows. We're going to cry a little bit. I have a weeping willow that is in a pot that a couple of years ago, we'll take a peek at it now with some pictures. You know, a mouse, a rodent of some sort, just gnawed it off to about 1 inch above the soil. Just completely gnawed it off. And then for the next year or 2, I nursed it back to health and just kept it outside, kept it up high, and the rodents left them alone. That next winter, I didn't put it back where the rodents can get it. Do you see where I'm going to go with this now? I didn't put it high. I didn't put it in my cold frame. Usually I put it in my cold frame because it's a small plant. It fits off to the side. I let it in there and it does. I left it in the garden storage area. And here it is. It was in the teas and in the intros all along. Here is that same tree 2 full years later. Been beautiful here in Minnesota. I went to go check my trees and I looked down and I saw a new nub. This is where the tears should start to fall down my cheeks, but I can only laugh and say, you know what, Dave? It's your own fault. This guy here was one of these trees. Okay, so before and after the critters, to 1 inch of a trunk. A lot of people in bonsai, when they're just starting out, are afraid to make those big old chops of a tree, but I got 2 buds growing out of here, one from this branch over here and one from the main trunk right here. This can grow up and become the new trunk. We can trim and cut some of this gnawed part from the animal and make it look nice, and that'll heal over time, and who knows what it'll look like. Right in here is where it was chopped off. Squirrel or rabbit came right up on my porch and chopped this guy off right here, not even 1 inch off the bottom where the rock soil starts. And so this is the next year or 2. These mice or moles or voles or whatever's getting in my trees. Oh my gosh, I was so sad when I first saw this. So I'm going to put it on the spinning wheel. I'm going to give you a close-up for it, and we'll talk about the willow trees and my mistakes. And I got more than just one to show you, unfortunately. The first chop is right there. That's where he chopped it 2 years ago. That's the hardest part left on this tree right now, because he got all of that chewed all the way around and then all the way down deep within the pot. All the way down. Got some nuggets in there, maybe some roots to gnaw on. There you have it. This is officially going to be sent away into the bonsai graveyard. Sad to say it didn't end there. The weeping continues. In one of the shows I finished mid to late summer, I showcased some of my weeping willows. I have some willows in a log, and I have my willow on a peninsula. It's just weeping, weeping, weeping all by itself. This is one of the first bonsai pots I ever created, just out of some molding clay. I ordered this clay, I forget the exact kind of clay, and I just made this weird shaped pot because I wanted to have a peninsula. So as I raise this up and show you, I got a little peninsula of land there, and so I fill this with water. And I have all kinds of rocks from the North Shore up in northern Minnesota, past Duluth area. I got this little peninsula of land, and this is one of my oldest willows from a cutting from about 3 or 4 years ago. I think the same age as the other one, but look at how much it took off, and the rodents didn't get to it. And I've cut it several times this past year. Well, this was chewed off by something. This was chewed off by something. I left these on here to see what would happen next year. I'll let you look though, as you see these branches all look like they're probably alive. And this one back here is the darkest color one. I have a sneaky suspicion this branch might have died right off, which I'd have lost my 3 avenues of branches here with all this curve and all these branches doing well. I was trying to thin out this real thick leader here and make these 2 thicker, and this was going to be possibly the new leader someday, but I think it's dying off. Let me spin this around for you. So there's the back. So I don't know if you could see that when I spun it, probably not, but there's some damage right there, there's some damage right here, there's some damage right here. So a little weeping there, and that's not the worst of it. A little closer look at the tree. You can see why this shines more than the rest of the tree. It's not only because I have some light shining on the tree, but because the critters got that taken care of pretty bad there. So I was a little hopeful here, but no, it's all the way around. So there's a couple ways I can look at this. It's a goner. It's going to all die. Or perhaps I can air layer it. Maybe I can put some sphagnum moss around here, wrap some saran tape around here, and then leave it in my plant room and see if I can get some roots on here, because I have this nice curvy start to a tree here that's already thicker than a pencil. Because my other ones, if I go take more cuttings, are going to be smaller than these. Willows do root very easily, very fast. You can root them in water, I've been told, and I've been having success just putting them in recycled bonsai soil. And if I were to cut this tree off right here at the base and scrape back some of this soil, I might even get some suckers right out of the trunk here and get maybe a multi-trunk tree coming out of this. And I could have a multi-trunk weeping willow. But it's going to start from 0, and so it'll be super, super skinny. So maybe I could, air layer this. But can I air layer this in December in my plant room where it'll think it's going to wake up for the spring and start to grow leaves? If I do leave it in here, it'll think it's spring. I've got plenty of lights in here to maybe have some growth. I can cut back all of this and see if some branches grow, and then see if I can get right down here some new roots for a new bonsai. I do have this one scar right there that's from a cut from a couple years ago that's almost completely sealed off now. So another year or two and this little hole will be sealed off. I do have this really cool division here, but there is this damage now here. I don't know if this branch is viable. Like I said, you see how dark it is compared to from here down, it's light. But I could get another branch growing right there to save this little junction right here. I don't know if an air layer is going to work. This would be a complete experiment. You guys can all comment at the bottom there somewhere and tell me I'm nuts. But here's my options. I think it's going to be dead, so it's going to be a wasted tree. So I'm going to make a little stand in my plant room. I'll make a video probably of it and show you what I'm doing, because this is an experiment. I'll be curious what happens. And I'll leave this in the pot right like it is right now. I'll put it on a new stand next to my workbench here, and I will put some plastic over this so we can get to have it thinking that it's all of a sudden going to be spring, more light, 14 to 16 hours of light, warmth, the roots will start to grow. I've had these in February and let them grow inside my plant room for a month or two before bringing them outside. But then you have to bring them outside super carefully or you just get leaf burn. But I have, I think, no other choice but either to chop this off and grow from skinniness, which I still could do, or I can see if an air layer would work. So we'll make this into an air layer. It'll be another video here in the middle of winter. I'm just going to leave it in the plant room and we're going to see what we can do with that. Yeah. It's time to cry. There you have it, everyone. We did a little boo-hoo crying. We made a correction with the cactus story. We trimmed a couple of trees. Got the jades pruned back pretty hard. We'll see how those work out. Yeah, right over here. Yeah, and congratulations to Derek on his no-hitter. And thanks for the big 400. Yeah. I'm hoping to get to 500 by the end of the year. That'd be just really cool to have 500 as we start a new year, 2021. If not, oh well. Hey, if you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up, maybe a like. Yeah, I got those links down below. Check out some of these videos that I posted from Nigel and such. And yeah, any comments, questions, concerns, any more corrections, things that I made a mistake on, yeah, throw it my way. I'll make a correction and we'll throw it maybe on the next episode. Take care, everybody. Be very, very safe. I hope you're all doing well this holiday season, and we'll catch you on the next show. Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. In the sense that I have a branch that splits into two shoots in here, so I'm probably going to cut this thing off right about here this fall. I've taken my knob cutter and I've gotten rid of some of that. So I just put them on the bottom, growing upwards into the bag. We fill up with trees and then we water as we need to.